Thank you, Elle. Now, when I was asked to chair this session, I could not contain my excitement. I'm recently late diagnosed autistic with ADHD, and being able to watch the Assembly, which is a groundbreaking entertainment chat show, has certainly helped me understand my own diagnoses and interviewing techniques, and I know it's helped others. The show involves a cast of autistic, neurodivergent, and learning disabled interviewers grilling celebs with nothing off the table. But what happens when you mash up strong entertainment values, an often misunderstood area of diversity, and trailblazing telly? Now stay tuned. Meet the brilliant panellists for our final session. First up, we have the irrepressible pair who co-founded Rockerdale Sudios, Irrepressible, which of course produced the Assembly. We have Stu Richards, CEO, and Michelle Singer, Director of Production. Both are very much hands-on exec producers of the Assembly too. We have I'm going to say it wrong now after all this practice. We have Sara Missaghian-Schirazi, who is a neurodivergent multi-platform producer-director and is a foot-on-the-ground producer for the show, with a particular focus on building and maintaining trusted relationships with the cast of interviewers. And finally, we have Sam Tatlow MBE, who is Head of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion at ITV. Sam supported Rockerdale in making the Assembly accessible for everyone taking part. Now, if you've not seen the show, where have you been? Also, you can catch up everywhere: BBC, iPlayer, ITVX, YouTube, social media. But it's such a nuanced programme that we're going to give you a flavour before we get into the nitty-gritty of it all.
Welcome to the Assembly.
Are you nervous? You're not nervous.
I might be a little bit nervous.
Our collective of autistic, neurodivergent and learning disabled interviewers.
Ooh.
Do you ever say I love you to your children?
When were you most scared?
What made you see that jumper and be like, oh, okay, I can wear this?
No subjects are out of bounds.
Who was your first love?
Was there a bit of a shove out from the BBC?
Who's your dentist?
A lot of X Factor winners have sold their soul. Do you regret selling yours?
Do I regret selling my soul?
No questions are off the table.
When Jo kicked you out, she emptied your shared bank account.
Someone you've worked with, a friend, has been cancelled.
I heard you stole a song. Which song was it?
Oh no! And all might happen.
1, 2, 3, 4!
When I was, oh dear.
Sorry.
No, it's fine, it's good. It's good, it's important.
That's something that I still carry with me now. I'm quite ashamed of that.
Can I give you a hug?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's so sweet.
There's a really good energy in the room.
This is my favourite interview that I've ever done.
Better than EastEnders.
This is all over it.
Wow. But first off, how did a show like The Assembly get commissioned? Because it's a unique show. It is based on a French format originally, but one that you've made completely your own. So how did you get the buy-in, not just once, but twice? First at the BBC, then at ITV, and for something that some would perceive to be a risky commission. Stu, you got that face.
Crikey. Okay. The BBC, we did something quite sneaky at first, actually. We were thinking about who to pitch it to in terms of commissioners. And I think someone who worked for us went on LinkedIn and found that one of the entertainment commissioners was also like an activist in the neurodivergent space, and we thought, that'll do. She'll be into this. So that's how it started with the BBC. You have to, from there, you have to convince a channel that you are going to make a show that has neurodivergent representation, but he's also going to be funny, and that those two things in the same show don't necessarily equal ha, learning disabled, autistic person, etc. So you've got to do that work, right? And part of that, I think, comes in the fact that we make comedy, right? And I've made a lot of comedy in the past that has a lot of sort of disability representation. So maybe there was a level of trust that we managed to sort of con them into having for us. So that was the first bit with the BBC. We made the pilot for the BBC. That went down really well, and we said, can we have a series, please? And they said, absolutely no way. So we took it to ITV. And how did we get it commissioned from that? We had a brilliant commissioner, David Smith. Is he in the room?
He's over here.
A magnificent commissioner, David Smith. Did I say? And of course we had Sam Tatlow, and so I don't know. I'm tempted to say maybe Sam trusted me, but I don't really give him any reason to trust me, I suppose. So I don't know how that came about from there, to be honest.
Yeah, I think from ITV's perspective, we loved the show. When it went out, we were all talking about it in the office and said how much we loved it. So when Stu and Michelle came to me after hearing the news, we had a conversation. I said, well, I think maybe we should have a conversation with Dave. I think Dave's the right person because I know that he enjoyed the pilot at the BBC.
Oh wait, Sam, were we with you basically the day we got rejected from the BBC?
Yeah.
And you were somehow charming us without our knowledge.
Yeah.
Into bringing the show. Oh my God, I've only just realised.
Invisible power.
You've done a number on us, haven't you?
Yeah.
We were at a disability in TV conference on the very afternoon where someone very kindly, at UK TV this was, somebody very kindly found a room for us to take the meeting where we were then dumped by the BBC. It was so lovely, as you might imagine, particularly on a Friday afternoon. It was a really lovely way to round off a day, a week. Arguably a career. It was great. It's great.
But then the conversations were had, and I think, not to speak for Dave, but I think for us and ITV's perspective, this was a really exciting proposition. It's a new, for us, it felt like a new spin on a chat show. And for us, ITV, you think about the big, broad mainstream shows that we're well known for, and celebrity chat shows is one of those. And this is an interesting spin on it. It's funny, it brings something different for the audience, and it feels mainstream. And then you add the lens of disability over to that, which gives it something different. And from my perspective and my team's perspective, what we're trying to do, working with our commissioning teams, is to kind of try and shift the dial a little bit about what you would expect to see on ITV and how we can increase the representation of people who are underrepresented, and in this example it's disability. So it kind of sat in those spaces. We're also doing a lot of work across all of the broadcasters on kind of raising the representation of disability and thinking about how you embed accessibility into production, and the work that we're doing collaboratively through the TV Access project. So for me, there was lots of reasons why this was interesting, and it was interesting for Dave. And then, that conversation was taken on and went through to what we now see as a brilliant series, and it's being recommissioned with a new series coming up.
I think one thing that Sam said there is that fundamentally the show, when you're trying to convince someone to take a show like this, it has to just be a fucking good television show, first and foremost. What you don't do is go in there and go, we've got this show and there's loads of representation and it's really lovely. People just go, who cares, mate? Is it good? Is it funny?
But there was a risk in terms of you've got a whole group of new talent. They're all new people in terms of you've got this celebrity chat show. So what was that element? Because that is a risk. That's not even a perceived risk. Is this going to work out? Michelle, you're nodding. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's completely. I mean, it is. I'm naturally quite risk averse too, so I see it. And yeah, it's an entirely new, we call them cast, but so everyone you see on screen, episode in, episode out, our cast are new to TV, and so we have a facilitator who's there in the background too, and on camera but it was new, TV was new to her as well. So the only person really on camera who's familiar with TV is the celebrity, and theoretically that's daunting, except for the fact that, and I can say this with greater confidence now, that the cast has said versions of this to us, that we create an environment in which it's effectively their domain. And so anyone literally coming into that domain is in their space rather than the other way round. And stripping back, as you see, which again was in the original French version, but stripping everything back so it's all natural lighting, you see all the cameras, you see the operators, same with sound, means that we are sort of demystifying or removing all the things that are typically and intentionally hidden from view. And so again, that allows for people in terms of our cast to feel as comfortable as possible in a potentially unnatural environment, and getting those people together, that they're not typically as one in any other setting. So we bring that group of people together for our show and our show only, but doing that and allowing for familiarisation helps that process too. So trying to eliminate as many elements of the very clear risk as possible is and has been the key.
I think it's also worth just mentioning as well, yes, there's an element of risk in there, but I think very often when you're talking about disability programming in whatever, for whatever broadcaster and in any genre, it's seen as a risk. It shouldn't be. If it's a good programme and it does something different and it lands for the audience, it shouldn't be seen as a risk. And so shows like The Assembly are absolutely proving that it isn't. And I think that's what's really, really exciting at the moment, is that we've got some really good examples that have come out over the last kind of 18 months. Joe and John Bishop's, Dave's example that he spoke about earlier, as well as some of Caroline's examples too. I'm not going to promote the BBC because I'm from ITV. It's proving that they're not risk, that they're successful and they land with the audience. So I think it's worth kind of reminding ourselves of that too.
I'm just going to pick up on the process a little bit here as well, because your experience with ITV was different to the BBC in terms of the actual process and bearing in mind our audience. My understanding is you're a bit more hands-off with ITV. Can we just have a quick, succinct chat on that?
Yeah, I mean, very quickly, the difference between albeit it was a TX pilot, so maybe there was more attention, and again, rightly so, particularly in a more risk-averse environment that BBC, in my experience, has tended to be. There were many more people involved on what turned out to be a weekly meeting in the lead up to making and filming the Assembly first time round, the Michael Sheen episode. And then I think there was it was so notable, an entirely different, much more trusting, much more empowering, therefore, attitude from David, from Sam, and their respective departments when we came to make the show at ITV, which allowed us in turn the freedom to do those things, to impart the knowledge that we'd learned from the Michael Sheen episode with the BBC and take it forward and build upon things. So, yeah, I to your point about risk as well, I think that's a really important point. When I think about risk now, I genuinely was thinking about the risk of the newness of the cast, and I wasn't even thinking about the potential risk in anything that's sort of disability contained or whatever. Hadn't even occurred to me.
I'm going to stick with the inclusivity, actually, but I want to actually hear from you, Sara, here, because you were on the ground in terms of building those relationships. Now, we talked about sort of some of the processes that were set up, but what was it actually like?
Incredible. Which aspect?
Any aspects you want to talk about. So you're also neurodivergent. So how was that factored in, the fact that you've got the relationships, you're building the relationships with people who are new to television, in terms of everything that Michelle has said about setting up the scenes, I guess. As a producer who really had to do quite a lot of hard work, because it is hard, how was your experience?
The most amazing thing about this program is when you first go in to meet the cast, before filming days, before anything, and you walk in, and as Michelle said, they aren't a group who are together most of the time. So we go into their 3 different respective groups. There are a couple of individuals as well, and you walk in, and that's their whole own world, right? They meet week in, week out, some of them multiple days a week, and we are invited into that space, and that is an honor and a privilege to be invited into that space and trusted to be there. And because the people that run the space have provided that trust, they've signed off on us being there, the cast also trust us. when we arrive. And I think what's really unique about this program is that we're constantly talking about that trust and how to not exploit it, how to make the most of it, and how to, you can't help but develop genuine relationships. This show doesn't work if you don't have genuine relationships. So yeah, the whole thing's been amazing, but I'd say that really stands out, that first time that you walk in and you meet everybody.
Fantastic. And Michelle, how are you maintaining relationships from beyond the actual filming itself to now, as we say, we're now heading into season 2, series 2, Become American. What are you doing in terms of that, making sure that they know that you're still there, that you're still there, you know, that everyone's still there for each other, essentially?
Yeah, I think more than on any other show where you work with contributors, particularly, as you say, who are not necessarily familiar with TV, with the Sheen episode and then with series 1 with ITV, they had a sort of flavour of what it might be like to do more, but we had no idea whether we would be doing any more. And there's, it's an unpleasant phrase, but the duty of care goes far beyond recording the shows and then those shows going out, because these are real people in very real worlds, and we have a responsibility to them for them having put their trust in us in the first place, that we continue to treat them well in the sort of aftercare, let's call it. And so from once they'd recorded, there's a period of time between recording and when the episodes go out, and so they are very used at that point to seeing Sara in particular and the other producer and some of us weekly, and all of a sudden they're not having that weekly contact, and that in itself is, from both sides, is really
arguably worse for us than for them. I think it's a big change to suddenly go through that, and Michelle kind of provides that continuity. I'm just going to jump in there to say also the fundamental model of working in TV as a freelancer means that for people who are neurodivergent like myself working in TV, it is very difficult to sustain a career. And a lot of people leave. I left and came back. And what it does mean is, especially with the changing commissioning landscape, and like it's difficult to end a show like this that is so incredible and then go, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills until it happens again. And that's the nature of working in TV. But we're not just working with neurodivergent cast, we're working with a neurodivergent team overall. And that's something that Rockerdale takes on when you're trying to figure out how to run this whole thing. It's the cast, but it's also the crew, it's also the whole team, because without that neurodivergent team, the show doesn't work.
Thank you, by the way. It's a thing, I've said it before, it's not a unique idea either, but I will say this in front of everybody in what I hope is a safe space. If you are, I'm non-disabled and I am whatever neurotypical means, but I am neurotypical. And we take the responsibility of this show, of what that means working with disabled people on camera, behind camera, disabled, neurodivergent, deaf, excuse me. I am clunky with language quite often. I have to accept that I will make mistakes, but this is part of what I was going to say, which is that if you're going to do it, you have to do it properly. And in doing it properly, you have to accept that you are going to make mistakes frequently, as I just showed. You are also going to have to accept that it is going to be hard work, because if you're going to do anything properly, it's going to be hard work. And so we had to accept that there would be a greater amount of work in the continuity of liaison with our cast than you might do with other shows. And similarly with our team, all in the hope, of course, that we would be recommissioned and we do more. But irrespective of that, I think you have to be aware of that responsibility and wear it well. And that often means putting in the time, working hard, doing it properly. Otherwise, just go away and let somebody else do it, because it's only worth doing if you're going to be dedicated to it, especially where people are concerned.
But we don't want people to go away. We want everyone to sort of be more inclusive. And Sam, just picking up on that, those lessons, there are a lot of lessons that have been learnt so far. How are we making sure that that is spread not just throughout ITV, but across the industry? You know, hard workers here, let's get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Some really best practice happened on this show, and I think what was really interesting and brilliant about us starting this back from series 1 was Stu and Michelle were really clear from the very beginning what that would look like in terms of how that would impact the schedule, what they would need in order to make the show properly. And that was some real conversations that were had internally then to make sure that none of that was lost, because there's no point us trying to make the show if it's not made properly, and it is made differently to other shows. And in other situations, there might have been trimming here and trimming there to make it cheaper, to make it faster, all of that kind of stuff that's normal for telly. But we're not able to make this show if we don't do it with all of what Michelle has just described. I mentioned in earlier about the TV Access project and the work that's happening. That's a collaboration project between the 9 broadcasters and streamers in the UK, and we're all kind of working together. And what I think is really brilliant is that we're all doing and saying the same thing. So whether it is a commitment to funding Access and making sure that that's really clear to producers, making that process easy, whether that is using Access coordinators and across the board kind of really engaging with that process. There's some really key learnings that's happening, and that we're all trying to do the same thing at the same time, which is good. And the Assembly being a case study for that is really important. This process is not going to be relevant for all shows, but I think there's some really great learnings of specific instances that we can take through to everything, whilst also acknowledging that when you need to make a show like this is what you need to do, and actually it needs to have the commitment both from the broadcaster as well as from the producer.
Dhruti, can I just say this about when you run a company like ours, a sort of disabled-led company, and we say all these things about inclusiveness and representation. The way I see it, there's a sort of duality at the heart of making content like this, and when it comes to access and not representation, one of them is protocols, right? Getting your shit together, getting your shit right, making sure that works. The other one is what I'm crudely going to sort of call vibes. Right? And a big part of this is just not being weird about it all, man. Do you know what I mean?
Embrace the weirdness.
It's making it. What I mean by that, to be clear, it's definitely you've definitely embraced weird. That's everything. You've seen the show, right? But it's making people feel comfortable in an environment where those protocols exist, and not making everyone who turns up on that set like squeeze their arsehole like that. Shit, if I say the wrong thing here, I am out. I am blacklisted for the entire of my career. Right? You've got to make an environment that is sort of welcoming, and an environment that there's a level of humility about getting stuff right. Right? I know that I will make more mistakes. I will probably say a couple more problematic things in the life of this show. Right? But I try not to, and I try to make an environment, we all try and make an environment where people can be comfortable. And I think there's a big part of it. And I think ideally you want to try your hardest. You're not going to get it perfect at all to get both of those sort of aspects right.
But let's stick with these vibes, because I was going to ask, why do you think it has become such a breakout hit? Is it because behind the scenes you got the vibes? Is it because in front of this screen you got the vibes? What is it that makes it so exceptional? Because the reaction has been extraordinary.
In my opinion, I think it's because it feels different from every other show on TV. Every show that succeeds in whatever genre, in my opinion, is defined essentially by its tone, by its feel. Whether it's Traitors or Adolescence, you watch it and it just feels a bit different to everything else. And by extension, you see the replicas of the many replicas of Traitors that exist. And when you watch it feels exactly like that other thing. You know what someone's tried to do. So when you have something that just feels completely unique, and you sit down and you watch this show, and a lift opens, and Gary Lineker's come out of a lift in a weird space, and you're thinking, what the hell's going on here? And then he gets on set, and he has these slightly awkward interactions, and you're like, I don't know what this is. What's happening here? And then he sits down, and someone asks him. The first thing that happens when he sits down in the Gary Lineker show is someone just turns to him and goes, did you shit yourself on the football pitch? And all that's happened within about 40 seconds. And so you're watching something that feels different. And so that would be my answer, ahead of it's got nice representation, because at the end of the day, you go home after a day's work, you pour yourself a massive glass of wine, and you don't sit there and go, I'll tell you what I need tonight, a bit of representation on the telly. Nobody does that. Nobody ever will.
I do.
That's probably, I know you do. There's probably, okay, correction. Sam, and probably a couple of nerds in this room probably do it. But most people don't. And most people sit down and want to just feel something, anything. That's my answer.
Can I paraphrase Stu? And this is often what happens in the office. We just take turns paraphrasing each other. Authenticity in the age of social media. I've got friends who, let's take Traitors, because we talked about it loads. They love it, but part of them cringes because they find it a bit icky because it's so formatted and set up and.
When you say your friends, do you mean young people?
I mean the youth.
Yeah.
But we like the youth as well, and all generations.
And I really think that's it, and that goes through all of the show, because that is what it is like to walk into the room with our cast. If they know enough about you and they've got a question on their mind they want to ask you, they will ask it. And it is authentic. Of course, it's still produced. Of course, it's still a TV show. But it's authenticity to me, and I think that's where it really has its success.
I think the other thing is that it really makes you feel things. I mean, I've watched each of the episodes a couple of times and have always cried. And that is probably a reflection on me more than anything. But I think it really makes the audience, it genuinely takes you on a bit of an emotional roller coaster, in that you're genuinely laughing out loud. You feel like your heart is being touched, but also there are moments when you cry, and it's not the point that you're supposed to cry, but like it's that you feel things. And I think for the audience, what's quite interesting that we've seen is that yes, the audience came to watch it linear or watching it on television, but also a lot of people found it on YouTube, and it came up either because it came up on their algorithm, or that it came up as part of what they were looking for. And that, I think, is quite interesting, because it says something about who the audience is for this kind of show and what they're looking for. So I think that's part of it. And what we found, and don't let me speak, I was about to say don't let me speak for Dave, but I'm going to, is that there were a lot of people who emailed either of us or both of us, or stopped us in the office and said, I watched it and it's really made me feel proud to work for ITV, or I've watched that show and actually all my family have messaged me about it and said how much they love it. And it's like touching different people who wouldn't maybe have watched a show like that before, which I think is really brilliant.
Can I just, go ahead. I was going to ask about the casting.
Are you sure?
Yes,
what I was going to
out.
tell you was there's a sort of a magic trick at the heart of our show. Shall I tell you what it is?
Yes, we want the magic. Go.
Right, what happens is, like, most TV shows with disabled people where it's all like, it's sad they're disabled. You're being asked as an audience member to be sympathetic. Generally speaking, the programme maker's going, look, be sympathetic. And that's the perspective you have, right? They're the sort of subject of your sympathy. On our show, the way it works is, right, when our celebrity comes out of that lift and walks into that room, your perspective as a viewer is with that. Most viewers, right? Most sort of neurotypical people, at least, let's say, your perspective is with them. So if you're, like, it's Michael Sheen gets out of that lift and you see who else is in that room, you're with him, you're thinking, oh gosh, this is going to be slightly uncomfortable or awkward, right? And he sits down, he has a couple of awkward interactions, and you're still sort of with Michael Sheen. The first question comes in, just a little bit odd. I'm still sort of with Michael Sheen looking around at this slightly weird room. And then about 3 minutes in, one of our cast members gets up and basically asks him, like, how come you're shagging someone who's 20 years younger than you? And in that moment, the perspective flips completely. Because now you're going, yeah, why are you doing that, mate? Why are you doing that? And in the blink of an eye, we've switched your perspective as a viewer. You're now not with Michael Sheen, you're with the cast. And the magic trick is that you've just been asked to empathise with a group of people that you have never empathised with when seen on your television shows before. Or it's just happened like that. You've forgotten any neurodivergence representation, neurotypical learning disability. You've forgotten all of that. You're just going, yeah, you dirty bastard.
We within reason. But yeah, it's unfiltered. It's unfiltered.
But that perspective shift is really, really important. So now when I speak to my mum about the show, she's going, yeah, that's what I was thinking about Michael Sheen too. And so now my mum is empathizing with or relating with a bunch of people that she never would have in a million years. And then the show goes on, and by the end of the show, everyone's together, and our perspective is we're with each other as a group. But that's a thing that you can only really do with entertainment. You can't do it in some mawkish soppy balls documentary. Do you know what I mean? Like that's.
But if Michael Sheen wants to be with whoever he wants to be with, that's all good. That's a trade.
Not only does
those views do not represent the views of the OKRE Summit 2025.
He answered for himself really eloquently in the room in front of everybody with his wife downstairs watching it all unfold, which was tremendous.
It was terrifying, wasn't it?
It was awful. I really thought all of the world was going to leave my bottom. It was horrible.
But there's a moment in practice. You have these moments in every show. It's not like one episode it's a one-off. It's like there is consistency with what you create. And I wanted to ask about that because a lot of that is down to the casting. A lot of that is down to the people who are interviewing, who are asking those unfiltered questions. Some of them, they are turning into celebrities into their own right, let's face it. But how are you preparing them to succeed and stay buoyant in our industry, which, let's face it, can be a little bit exploitative, but also fun?
Right, where we are right now is we are starting the process of re-engaging with the pre-existing cast from the previous episodes and thinking about introducing some additional cast as well. And so this is perfect because we're right there right now. And so Sara and the series producer and the other producer spend the most time with our cast and are doing that thing right now of getting back in touch with everybody, waving their faces in front of their faces. What a terrible sentence that was. And then going back in and starting to get everyone to think about, okay, we're going again. So here might the new celebrity be? What do you think of them? And so on and so forth. What's your take on that business of making sure are you sort of saying keep their feet on the ground?
Yeah, just they are amazing characters. They are amazing people.
Yeah.
So how are you making sure that they are who they are and not getting sucked up in our industry, which can suck people up? Let's face it.
You'll know better than me, but I think the rest of the industry isn't quite ready for a lot of our cast yet. So although they are getting approached on the street, which we love and most of them love, you'll know better than me, a couple of people are maybe getting the odd offer here and there, but they're also, their lives existed before we were there. That's what we always said when this series ended, and the first series ended, I'm heartbroken because I'm going to miss everybody. But their lives existed before you were there, Sarah. You're going to have to just get on with it. They've got a great support network around them, including Rockerdale, that are helping them process this stage. Editorially, what it means is we are hoping they don't start to second guess too much what we want. So because they've done a whole series and they start to see what lands, what ends up on screen. I mean, there's so much great stuff that doesn't even make the cut. And that's only going to increase over time. But these are clever. Our cast members are clever. They watch the shows and they go, right, that's what you wanted. I'm going to give you more of that. So we have to do a lot of undoing in series 2.
I am mindful of time and we've got so much to say because it's just such an amazing series. But how are you persuading these A-list powerful celebrities to come into a space where they're getting asked unfiltered questions on anything? I mean, that is the antithesis of how celebrity interviews usually tend to work. Are you like, hey, come along? I don't know why I did that.
It's good. I really enjoyed it.
But yeah, hey, what are you doing?
Hey, we do. We start every conversation. Hey.
But yeah, is it easier now? Was it difficult? How did you approach that conversation to say this is not what we usually do?
It's easier and it's harder. There's a lot of which I don't think is about the show as much as I think it's about the wider world, which is really annoying for us. But I think people are inherently fearful of saying the wrong thing is, being tripped up, all of those phrases. I mean, we'll get it. Everyone panics around social media. Everyone fears having their words taken out of context. And so particularly if you're in the media or if you're a performer, I think you're very mindful of that. And if you're not, then you have a team around you who is mindful of that. And I think that's scary. What we do, and I think is reflected in our episodes, multiple, is that we just talk. And like you were saying about authenticity, I think it's there, the absolute humanity of insert celebrity name and status here and our cast. Whatever that sort of status difference is, dissipates within sort of 15 or 20 minutes of our 3-hour record. And you see that drop. You see somebody coming in with some degree of, even if it's a pretense, some degree of a kind of, hey, like sort of supply teacher vibes or something. Someone pretending I'm aware the cameras are on and I'm supposed to be like this. And they can maintain that artifice for 15, 20 minutes or so of questions from people who often don't give a shit who they are in terms of the celebrity nature of things, notwithstanding David Tennant, that was not true. But generally they don't care. And so once you realise people don't care and people are asking you questions they're genuinely wanting to know the answers to, then you very quickly sink into we're just chatting. And it often feels in the gallery, especially in the viewing room too, that you are witnessing or sort of overhearing a conversation that would be in a cafe or in a pub or whatever. It's really wonderful, that leveller. And so that's the way that we would approach that with potential celebrity bookings. And the other thing is, of course, you get a half-hour show that's dedicated to you, and who doesn't want that from a publicity point of view?
When the show went out, I did have a few sneaky DMs on LinkedIn from agents, you know what I mean? Do you fancy my celeb sort of thing?
Were you like, have you paid for premium? How are you getting hold of me?
Good point, isn't it? Yeah, they really wanted to be on the show if they're paying for LinkedIn Premium.
Oh, and some people who are brilliant, and we will tell you afterwards, who contacted us directly, not even through reps, who want to be on the show.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Just good shit. So do ask later.
Come up afterwards. You know, I do like coming to time. That might be the autism in me. One key takeaway from everybody, for everybody, like what do you want to make sure that people know about? Because as I said, it's not necessarily been the easiest process for you to have gone through, for you to create something that is so trailblazing. If somebody leaves this room right now, what do you want to make sure from this very amazing, very funny conversation we've had that they take and they implement in what they're doing?
I've got 2 straight away.
You have 3.
Okay, well, these 2 straight away, I said to anybody. So my background is in like organisation, production management, project management, and so forth, and it can translate to events or anything like this. I cannot believe that for all the years when we were allowed to print, and then on this show we still have to print some material, we didn't always do it on yellow paper, because for most people it makes no difference whatsoever, but for some people it makes the world of an improved difference to print on yellow. I don't understand how that just never used to happen, and how this is presented as a relatively new thing. So if you must print, with all the sustainability caveats, print on yellow, and it will make no difference to anybody for whom it shouldn't matter, and it could make a huge change for somebody. And they don't need to declare it then, and nothing needs to be said. The other thing is, on a similar note, every time I did a production or an event prior to the assembly, it never came up, never occurred to me, nobody ever suggested it, that we have a quiet room or a sensory room. And for this show, we have that provision, and it's used, and it's not just used by our cast. And I suggested it at the National Television Awards, and they made that provision, and it was used. And we're about to do another event, and it's being used there too. It is not just for our cast, it is definitely for our crew and the extended production team. And why we didn't implement these things sooner, I just don't know. So I'm very glad that there were opportunities for people to speak freely enough to make those quick, easy changes that benefit everybody. So those 2 things.
Wonderful. Stu?
I would say if you're sort of creating or developing content or projects of any kind in areas where inclusion are a big element to it, I would say try not to get too lost in self-righteousness and being seen to look like a fucking great person because you've stuck minority X on your project of whatever type. Make it good first. Make it bloody good, and then the rest can do the work. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's just boring. Should have said something more fun, shouldn't it?
That was going to be my point. Like, I think what's really exciting for us from a diversity, equity and inclusion perspective from ITV is that actually we want your best ideas. So if there are producers in the room who have got ideas that have some form of diversity and inclusion involved in it, what we want is your best ideas. We want something that's punchy, that's going to shift the dial, that's going to do something different and surprise our audiences. It's not good enough for it to just be about disabled people or any, as Stu just said, any other group. Like, it needs to be something that's going to really be different. We want those ideas come to us. The teams are really looking for it. And I think the other thing that I would say is I think it's a really exciting time. There are some really great stories that are being told at the moment, and I'm really excited to see what comes through the door next, because the Assembly was not on my bingo card coming to ITV, but I'm so pleased that it is and that it's coming back for a second series. So
sexy
well
bingo
done.
card though, right?
Sexy bingo card.
Sara, go ahead.
Bring a dog to studio. Game changer, honestly. Cast loved it. We loved it. It's amazing. And we do have a member of our team who's going to have a medical alert dog as well this series, which we're trying to engage with the correct etiquette, but we just want to hang out with
No, we all feel like Oprah. You're all getting a dog. It's amazing.
And Baby Bells is the other one. Our cast, and I thought it was just me, but that's one thing you'll learn, is that it's not just you. Everyone loves Baby Bells, and genuinely delighted.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Stu Richards, Michelle Singer, Sara Missaghian-Schirazi, and Sam Tatlow MBE. We will all be tuning in.